This is TradeFlow News, bringing you relevant news and insights from around the world. TradeFlow News, enabling trade for SMEs and economies worldwide.
These are some of the key topics that we will be looking into in today's program.
First, let's take a look at the overnight headlines which are impacting the commodity markets.
OPEC oil output fell in April due to a halt in some of Iraq's exports and delays to Nigerian shipments, a Reuters survey found on Tuesday, adding to the impact of strong adherence by top producers to a supply cut deal by the wider OPEC Plus alliance. OPEC pumped 28.62 million barrels per day, BPD, last month, the survey found, down 190,000 barrels of oil per day from March. Output is down more than 1 million barrels of oil per day from September. OPEC and its allies, known as OPEC Plus, agreed to cut production in late 2022 to support the market as the economic outlook worsened, hitting prices. Output is set to drop further in May as a new round of voluntary cuts unveiled on April 2 takes effect.
Oil extended losses on Wednesday after plunging 5% in the previous session, as investors priced in expectations for interest rate hikes in the US and Europe and waited for clarity on future policy path. Brent futures dipped 12 cents, or 0.2%, to $75.20 a barrel by 0605 GMT, while West Texas Intermediate Crude, WTI, fell 17 cents, also 0.2%, to $71.49. Both benchmarks closed at their lowest since March 24 in the previous session, when they also recorded their biggest one-day percentage decline since early January.
Moving on to the top news in the energy sector.
India, backed by China, is trying to build a consensus within the G20 group to let countries choose a roadmap to cut carbon emissions instead of setting a deadline to end the use of fossil fuels, 3 Indian government officials said. India, the current G20 president, is keen on introducing the phrase, multiple energy pathways in a communiqué to be released at a group summit in September and has been supported by countries including China and South Africa, one of the officials said. The 3 officials declined to be identified since they were not authorized to speak to media. Multiple pathways for energy transition would enable countries to choose resources, even coal, while working towards plans on net zero emissions.
India slightly decreased its Urals oil buying in April compared to record imports in March, while China increased its share of the Urals market, Refinitiv Icon data showed and traders said. Increased competition between the two buyers over the last month drove prices for Urals higher, priced as a differential to dated Brent. However, FOB prices for the grade, which do not include freight and insurance, fell below the Western price cap of $60 per barrel last week as international benchmark Brent weakened, making purchases even more attractive for buyers in Asia. Next, we have the top news in metal markets. Gold prices held steady above the key $2,000 level on Wednesday, while investors turned their attention to the U.S. Federal Reserve's interest rate decision due later in the day. Spot gold was trading in a narrow $5.48 range, holding its ground at $2,017.09 per ounce by 0648 GMT after rising more than 1% in the previous session, as yields dropped on renewed fears of contagion in the U.S. banking sector. U.S. gold futures were up 0.1% at $2,025.60. The Fed's rate decision will be announced at 1800 GMT. Most investors expect the U.S. central bank to raise interest rates by another 25 basis points, but are looking for clues on its next steps.
Copper dipped during Asian trading on Wednesday, as investors awaited the U.S. Federal Reserve's decision on interest rates due later in the day and what policymakers might signal on future actions amid looming recession risks. 3-month copper on the London Metal Exchange, LME, was down 0.3% at $8,487 a ton, as of 0611 GMT. It touched a one-week high of $8,770.15 on Tuesday. Most other base metals were also down.
We will now look at the top news in the agricultural sector.
The global sugar market is heading to a smaller supply surplus of 1.1 million tons in 2022-23, October to Sept, from a March estimate of 2.5 million ton surplus, after frustration with crops in areas such as India, Mexico and the European Union. According to projections released on Tuesday by broker and analyst StoneX in a presentation that is part of the New York Sugar Week, the situation is expected to improve only slightly in the new season, 2023-24, to a global supply surplus of 1.3 million tons. The broker's sugar production projection for India, the world's second largest producer, was cut to 32.8 million tons in the current season that ends in September from 34.1 million tons seen in March. That is all for today's news on commodity markets. Stay tuned to TradeFlow News as we continue to provide you with more updates. We also invite you to follow us on Twitter at TradeFlow News, which allows you to watch our program on your mobile device or desktop to receive information from there.